Welcome to the Psychology and Spirituality, a Bridge to a Better Life discussion. Hello again. I'm your host, Marcia Trajano, and with me is our program founder, Jussara Korngold. Hi, Jussara.
Hello.
I got tongue-tied this morning. But if this is the first time you're watching this podcast-like program, please note that our program, the Psychology and Spirituality Weekly Talks, are based on the works by Joanna de Angelis. And we are here to offer you and me, you, Jussara, me, and all of you who are here with us, a safe space, right? We're proposing a space to confront, compare, correlate, and expand spirituality concepts from this psychological lens so that we can access insights, actionable tips, and real world advice to help all of us lead a better life. Today, Gisela and I will talk about social phobias and what it takes for us to come to a new plateau, to understand who we are, so that in achieving this new level, new plateau, we can leave our old self behind. And just before we start our conversation, Gisela, I would like to recognize the sponsoring organizations, TV Mansão do Caminho, the United States Spiritus Federation, the International Spiritus Council, and AMI Brazil. And for all of you who are here today, please hit subscribe if you haven't already done so. And if you want to check more about what we're doing, check us out at spiritist.us. And we welcome all of your questions, your ideas, your reflections, your feedback. I would love to receive that from you. But Jusara, Joanna de Angelis, she's always asking us to look at ourselves, right? And even when we're not feeling well, when we recognize something that is becoming an obstacle for that life of well-being, she says to go ahead, choose therapies, choose processes, activities, tools, habits that may soften the pressures or even eliminate some of the tensions that we bring in our day to day. But as we're about to talk about social phobia, my goodness, I'm really tongue tied this morning, this afternoon, actually. I thought about the 1997 As Good as It Gets movie with Jack Nicholson and Helen Hunt. I don't know if you remember that movie. I find it quite interesting because it tells us the story of a misanthropic, right, bigoted as could be, and with a lot of obsessive compulsive habits. He's a loner. I believe his name is Melvin Udall. He's cranky. He's sexist. He's homophobic. He's racist. He embraces the gamut of all the things that are not good in somebody that you meet. But if you maybe do a double click on the story plot, you start to not only encounter several layers of irony, right, but also some content that is very interesting in our discussion about social phobias. Just to give a little bit of a spoiler alert here, those layers of irony are, for example, how can a hardcore misanthropist can deliver romance novels, right? It's just one of those. No, it doesn't work, but it's there. And the other point is that, to me, very important is how this main character, Josiah, goes through such a transformation, but it is a transformation that is triggered by some discomfort, right? He's no longer in his protected bubble, if you will, of being a loner, of making a lot of money. He writes a lot of novels, very productive, so he has a insulated life from people because of his social phobia. And basically, his life, one day to another, gets turned upside down. His neighbor, for example, is hospitalized, so now he has to take care of a dog. And with taking care of something outside of him, he starts to heal something somehow, right? And the second one is, I love this, the restaurant with the one waitress that does not bother with this man's aggressive behavior, she just lets go. She's not there. So how can he resolve the issue of being hungry because he cannot get the right waitress to serve him? And with that, ultimately, he starts to look at himself. And it's very interesting because it's not just him, right? Jussara, she too, through their relationship that develops in this movie, as good as it gets, start to look at herself as well. But I wanted to say to all of us, because I was thinking, Jussara, that autism. It's really some of the traits portrayed in this movie. It's about autism spectrum, right? And according to just a little bit of data here, according to the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, the CDC, this disorder, autism spectrum, is the fastest growing developmental disability in the US. And it's one of the one disorders that is more talked about than any others in the media, et cetera, et cetera. So when we look at this and we look at all that's going on that impairs us, I just wanted to just say, Jussara, what did you hear? Do you remember this movie, and what can you share about having issues that really puts us off kilter and puts obstacles that perhaps our lives would be easier if we didn't have that?
So, first of all, hello, Marcia. Hello, everyone. It's really great to be here today as well, and to participate in this conversation in this podcast. And I think the subject that we are going to be talking about today, it's really deep because it can lead us to so many different avenues when we are going to talk about social phobia. We are referring to the book, The Integral Human Being by Joanna de Angelis in partnership with Evaldo Pereira Franco. And
Mhm.
also, like you said, the movie As Good as It Gets, right? With Jack Nicholson, and that you can watch nowadays on Prime TV. And I think what you were talking about, and about these staggering numbers that we are having in terms of not social, mental disorders,
Mhm.
especially when we are talking about the spectrum leading to autism. I was thinking that what a great time we are living, because this is nothing new. According to Spiritism, we know that we are an immortal spirit, and that we have been, reincarnating, going through one life to one experience to another.
Mhm.
And of course, the current one is our best version of ourselves.
Mhm.
So if now we have some personality traits, some mental imbalances, imagine how worse it was in the past.
Right, right.
But
Mhm.
it was not something that, before, officially Freud and others, and Jung, like we were talking, Jung, that like we're talking here, that this was actually became something serious and more analyzed more from a scientific perspective.
Mhm.
That you were, we're talking about hysteria and all of this, and is hysteria coming from the Greek name that is the uterus, the female uterus. So, I mean, and it was something that if you have someone in your household that would present any kind of sign of mental disorder, this person would be confined either in an institution or in your own home. So there
Yeah.
was a lot of prejudice, a lot of difficulties, and nowadays is out in the open. So
Yes.
one thing that is out in the open and that is no longer an issue for any of us to have any preconceived ideas mean we are going to take this serious, and we are going to be looking for treatments. And now we have so many kind of treatments, starting with therapy, and so many different kinds of therapy going to,
Correct.
and the pharmacology that helps as well. So I think that when we look at a person like he
Mhm.
portrays in this movie, the actor portrays in this movie, um, that presents clearly signs of being OCD, a
Mhm.
germaphobe, and other things, the prejudice that he had, meaning he had a comfort zone
Yes.
where he was taught, he was raised in some kind of thoughts that, it for someone that it's so difficult to adapt, that has a difficulty of walking in the sidewalk because of the cracks on the sidewalks. Imagine
Mhm.
to adapt, I mean, to have all of a sudden a lot of these pieces of the puzzle in his mind that
Uh-huh.
he has to conciliate different kinds of love and
Mhm.
treatment and etc. So um not jumping into conclusion and immediately labeling him as being a bad person,
Mhm.
he shows clearly that there was something there. Because even if there were events that, like
Mhm.
I said before, triggered him or led him,
Mhm.
or obliged him to open himself up, I mean, if those things were not in him, he wouldn't be
Would
able to perform.
exactly, yeah, he wouldn't be wakened if it wasn't there. But clearly, from a neurodivergent or atypical, right, a brain type, if you talk about autism, et cetera, in the ADHD, autism, and so on and so forth, there's so many of those neurodivergent individuals. It's important that we understand that. Maybe we may not express the way you're used to, right, Jussara? And I think it's important for us to understand that as we confront ourselves, we should confront also those that do not fall. And I love. I don't know if you remember. I wrote it down, Jo, about the waitress because she is amazing, right? She is comforting. She relates. So we have a this loner character, Jack Nicholson. And oh, by the way, both of them actually received Oscars nominations and won in that movie. So it's interesting, right? To come to a movie that has a relatively small setting and they're present and they demonstrate the complexity of human emotions in a comedy. So in any case, she is relatable. So as a biosocial animal that she's compassionate. She relates to everybody, including the crazy guy, right? She calls him crazy, and the guy that nobody could come because of all his quirks, but she is able to reach out to him. She's able to connect with him, even though all of the things, the traits that he brings. But the plot about her, just as a to contextualize, she has a very sick child. Maybe he's what, I don't know, 8, 9. And since she was 6 months old, he's sick. And she goes to the hospital several times a year. I'm sorry, a week, because he gets sick and she does not have a level of resolution to how sick he is. But at some point, he provides, right? Because he's has the means, and of course, all he wants is somebody serving him food. Very interesting enough. It's that simple for her, but how difficult it is for him. He needs that anchor, that person that is there for him, and he pays for the doctors and treatments, and in this action of extreme generosity from his part, she says later, let me see, I wrote it down here. Uh, After her son is no longer so sick, and she tells the character who plays her mother, what do I do now, right? I no longer have, and those are, I'm paraphrasing, this stupid panic thing inside of you all the time. Without that, I just have to start thinking about myself. Who needs those thoughts? And when I saw that, I'm like, oh, this is Joanna de Angelis for us. This is the invitation that she gives to all of us. Let us have the courage to look at ourselves, even the most normal and well, placed from her emotional perspective. She is also evading, right? She's being distracted, but now the distraction is gone. Do we now have the courage to look at ourselves, right, and become somebody else than what we felt trapped? So I just thought it was very, very interesting. um, if you don't mind, Jussara, I just wanted to give a little bit about the idea of, if you can understand the main topic of our conversation, which is social phobias, right? And how important it is for us to understand, and how, if we don't, they can really imprison ourselves, right? And I just, if we can get really high level here, Ju, we know Carl Gustav Jung, the Swiss psychotherapist, and we're talking about Jungian psychology in the majority of the times we talk here. But he, in the early 20s, I think it was 1921, perhaps, that he wrote the book about personality types. So the big broad ones are: I'm an extrovert, I'm an introvert. So in the case of the movie, he is an extreme introvert, almost shut in, and she is the extrovert. And it's important for us to think about it, because our world almost always rewards those who are extroverts, right? It is important for us to understand that there's nothing wrong to be introvert. To be an introvert is just a there for us to understand that we as human beings, and as have you mentioned, Jussara, uh, immortal spirits that have had many different experiences. Today I'm experiencing this personality type, and because of it, how do I deal with the inputs outputs in life? And from that perspective, when we look at the introverted living a life, especially in the Western society that rewards extroversion, it can lead to those social phobias. Does this make sense, Shusada, what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
absolutely. And
Mm-hmm.
this is one thing that Joanna de Angelis tells us in this chapter
Mm-hmm.
of the book, for us
Mm-hmm.
about to make a distinction
Mm-hmm.
between pathological phenomena when we are talking about introverts that, of course,
Yep.
have to be treated medically, psychiatrist,
Mm-hmm.
medicine, and those that start reacting in this way, like you said, because according to the classification of Jung, they have different personalities, and of
Mm-hmm.
course, since we are sum up of what we were in the past and the experiences that we are going through now,
Mm-hmm.
maybe being an extrovert is not in us as well, or the world today demands a lot from us,
Mm-hmm.
right? I mean, we look at social media and it seems that everyone is doing great, is leading wonderful lives, and this can contribute for you not to feel adequate to
Correct.
frequent certain environments and certain social circles. I was even thinking, because I really like to go deep when I watch a movie,
Yes.
and not being judgmental.
Mm.
um, we have a picture, a snapshot of him now adult,
Yeah.
aged actually, but we don't know about his past. There is only one moment in the whole movie, like a single phrase that he says that he used to stay all the time in his room, and when he were not in his room, his father would be beating him.
It's almost like one liner, right?
Yes,
And if you don't pay attention, it,
yeah.
it, it goes away. Yes.
And I mean, from there, you can get the whole picture. He didn't get to this kind of behavior. I mean, he was a survivor, first of all,
Yeah.
because he even could manage to be independent. He found
Yes.
a way of living, earn his livelihood by becoming a writer that doesn't require you to open yourself that much out in the world. So, I mean, we see that there was a lot going on that led him to this kind of behavior. And of course, there were underlying mental issues.
Hmm.
Uh, his case was not simply that he thought inadequate
Hmm.
to live in society, but definitely, like we were talking before, like he really had mental issues. He was being treated by a psychiatrist.
Correct.
He had an obsessive compulsive disorder,
Mm.
germophobia, and the was definitely in the spectrum. Eh, But um, the behavior of society
Yes,
towards this kind of individuals is criminal, to say the least.
I agree with you. Yes.
Because unless you are in that box that is written you belong, if you go a tiny bit outside of it, then you are already labeled as not being adequate to
Yeah.
to be there, right?
Yeah. You become somehow marginalized and no longer part of what is normal,
Mm,
normally accepted behavior. And I think it's important for all of us to talk about it because so many of us are lost in those, if not anxiety, right? But also the pathology, the pathological state of that anxiety, that fear that will imprison us for many different reasons. So I think it's important for us to understand, to really develop our sense of, if we don't have it, but to be able to develop compassion, right, Jussara? To look at, with high emotional intelligence to all of those who are going through this. And interesting enough, and I'm going to just add a little bit of my personal journey. I work with a company that is a global organization. It's in 60 different countries, very diverse, very old. It's over 125 years in existence. And just a year ago, it started fully frontal in one of its goals to address mental health. And it's beautiful the work that it's doing because it's almost every other day there is an opportunity for you to either do a webinar, to do a class, to do a forum, to network, and you talk about all this. And by doing this, then you start talking about diversity. Diversity is not circumscribed to potentially the color of your skin, the way you speak, or your gender. It is much more complex, including how I express myself, right? So I find it when you said that we are lucky to be living today in a society that is expanding itself so that we can understand and welcome all of those that perhaps do not fit the mold, right? I love that.
And you see, Marcia, one thing that is it's so amazing and corroborate to what we are saying till now, in terms of, he became more of a recluse because this is how the world made him become,
Yes.
starting from his home, to the point that we started by saying how many prejudices he had in terms of, being a racist and
Oh yeah.
homophobic and
Mhm.
germophobic and OCD. And
Mhm.
at the end, his best friend becomes his neighbor that is homosexual,
Yes.
and everything was led this way because he kind of, started having a relationship, develop a kind of, a relationship with the friend of his friend that
Mhm.
was an African American, and
Yes.
he becomes in love, infatuated by the waitress that had a son that was constantly coughing.
Mhm.
So for someone that is a germaphobe, God
Yes.
forbid, when you cough, you sneeze, you even talk near
Yeah.
me. With all that, we see. Could we really say that he was all those things, and how serious they could be when we see how,
Mhm.
of course we are talking about a movie, but how, in a short space of time, he changed all that. And I mean, not to mention the dog, right? He hated, and he started by throwing the dog, in the garbage bin, and
Yeah,
all,
it's terrible. Yes.
feeling love with the dog, right? And the dog follows him with all his faithfulness. It's so amazing. But
Mhm.
you see how much we have to pay attention to our actions. And I was thinking, about everyone that is not emotionally mature. And I say everyone, I'm not going to say that only to children and the teenagers, because you may be, older and not necessarily be emotionally mature to
Mhm.
deal with the pressure of social media.
Yes.
And then not to mention as well, how, this life that we are having now in social media has prevented us to acquire social skills.
That's
We are
very interesting. Yes.
we are losing social skills, right? Because I mean, I feel more at easy talking through texts, and I can be in my PJs. I can, have I don't mind if I had a bad hard day or whatever. Nobody is watching me, and I mean, you feel more free than to have to, to adapt to the conditions of life in society. And this is very serious.
Mhm.
We are not trying to criticize this tremendous and great opportunity that we have today of talking to the whole world, right?
Mhm.
But we are saying we have to pay attention because maybe we do not have, like Joanna de Angelis says here, the pathological illness that makes us, agoraphobic, uh,
Mhm.
with, panic of leaving our homes and all of
Mhm.
this. But we are developing symptoms and making us ill because of the level of anxiety that we are being under due to all these things with social media. The way I'm going to pose for a picture has to be the perfect way, otherwise people are going to be judging me. And of course, in real life,
Uh-huh.
we all know how we are in real life, right?
Uh-huh.
And now I am presenting myself as no longer a persona in terms of personality, but also, we live within our avatars nowadays.
Yes.
So
Yes.
we make an avatar of ourselves. And I mean, this is the features, that my corporeal feature that is there in the avatar, and here is the persona that comes from the way we wanted to present ourselves, and
Mhm.
which is much easier for us to disguise, to mask when we are having, communications through texts than eye to eye relationships.
Yes. Yes. And I think it's like what is it, 60%? I may be wrong here. That we lose from a if I'm talking to you in person versus talking to you over the phone versus now once more removed by text. And this is the new paradigm. It's now no longer just text, it's an avatar that I create. What is the problem with that? There's no problem, except, like you said, number one is the preoccupation that we must have. Are we creating, quote unquote, creating a society of individuals that are hiding behind the persona that is that avatar, right? We're moving away from a persona in terms of this is how I talk and I act when I am in X situation versus Y. But now, because of exactly social media, I present myself. There is a consistency to my what I seem and what I am, that it becomes almost a cliff, right? Just out of, there is a distance between that person that I come as, the person who smiles, the person who's good, who's beautiful, wealthy, talented, intelligent, all the positive that in our cultural subset we see as, this is what I need to be part of a larger community, to be engaged, to be accepted. But is it, right? All of those things, what about the things that I'm not necessarily? What are the things that I repress that are, become part of my shadow? What about the things that I don't even see myself because of my blind spot? And I'm trying to be something that I need to be accepted. So I try to create that pictured picture perfect person, but I'm not honoring myself, right? And again, it goes back to life will perhaps give you a neighbor that it goes to a hospital and you need to take care of a dog, or that you no longer have your favorite table, your favorite waitress at your favorite restaurant, and you have to deal with stepping out of that bubble that you created. And the good news is it's all good, right? It's just sad. It's all good. It will lead us to at some point confront with ourselves with the things that we are afraid of and we're trying to hide, and leading to potentially a life of anxiety and fear, such as you mentioned before, agoraphobia or panic disorder, etc., etc. So I just think it's all good. It's bad, but it's good, right?
The way I see it now for us that are participating, for all the listeners, is that we have to make a stand
Mhm.
and become responsible for what we are doing in the world, especially in relation to others, because
Mhm.
we are the ones that are contributing uh, for persons to feel inadequate to be in certain environments. For instance, there is a scene in the movie where he becomes rude because he had this very difficult personality, of course, and the manager of the place asked him to leave, and all the other customers stand up and applaud and cheer because he was thrown away. So this is huge. And what are we doing with our words, our behaviors? How
Mhm.
much are we contributing for others to feel that they do not belong? And how much are we letting others dictate the way we should be?
Yes, yes.
And this is very serious in this case. And I think Joanna de Angelis says a phrase here that relationship with other individuals are in life are essential for us to develop ethical progress, because now I have to know how to deal with you, respecting you, and I don't have to pretend behind a cell phone, the computer, whatever that we are using to text and communicate. And I was thinking, when we are playing video games, you have to
Yeah.
choose the avatar. What kind of avatar are you choosing? Even when you are looking at, Netflix or Prime, you have to choose an avatar for yourself. How are you seeing yourself? What
Mhm.
kind of avatars are you choosing to be the one that you have there at Apple, Netflix, Prime, all those um,
Streaming services, right? Yes.
exactly. So, and I think if we have to take something from this conversation, I think this is it. We have to leave our comfortable zone in saying it's not my problem. I have nothing to do with that. We have everything to do with it.
Mhm.
Each one of us are is a power and
Yes.
can dictate behaviors and
Mhm.
can really contribute to elevate or to the downfall of another human being. Uh,
Absolutely.
so let us be more mindful
Mhm.
in this sense, I think, because and even in terms you mentioned, compassion, the way we look at ourselves. Again, like I just mentioned, don't let the world tells you what is good or bad. Use your
Mhm.
judgment, use your reason, hear the voice of your conscience and go with that.
Yeah, I love what you're saying, and I want to echo it. And at the same time, let us reflect upon the complexity of who we are, just being, immortal spirits. We, each one of us, have a long road behind us and a long road even longer ahead of us. So it is this marathon that we're running against ourselves, right? The more we run, the better we run. We're becoming better. And I think that's important, because we we have different weights, and we have different pain points, and we have so much different, but we're all children of God. We're all brothers and sisters, and we look different. Speak differently. We get tongue tied in the middle of our conversation, whatever. But we all mean well, and I think this is the important thing for all of us to understand from an emotional intelligence perspective. We all mean well. We can get better because we are in this journey toward progress, right, Jussara? The other component that I wanted to perhaps speak today is the fact that the paradigm, right? for social media is one, the framework, we're talking about technologically speaking, is the one that feeds into group thinking. Think about it, right? The more you click, the more you click. It is a joining of the same type of behavior, which can lead to herd behavior, right? Herd mentality, and also the creation of those subgroups and cliques that will lead to expel or remove individuals that look and speak or behave different than what we think is right or wrong. And I think this discussion today about social phobia is to understand that social phobia may be born out of an introversion, a tendency from a personality type to be more introverted than extroverted. That's all it takes. It may also be exacerbated, like in the movie, for a very difficult childhood, but it can be further exacerbated by being removed from the clique. Do we need clicks, right? And I think that's what you're saying, Jussara. We need to be aware that the minute we decide not to clap because somebody is being shamefully removed from a restaurant, the moment we decide not to do it, we are diminishing the power of such an action. So we all are responsible to change the world, if you think about it, right? We all have a role, a responsibility, a weight into how we become much more inclusive and open to all of the, what is it, 8 billion different individualities in this planet today. What are your
And if you
thoughts?
think about
Yeah.
if you if you think about it, he's penalized by society
Yes.
because he speaks his mind. He tells the truth.
Yes.
Uh, he doesn't have social skills. And of course, we are not saying that we have the permission to go out and just say whatever that is going to be hurting people. But on the other hand, when we look at him not knowing exactly how to make this distinction, because you see clearly that his intention was not to hurt the other person,
Hmm.
just to say, what he was feeling,
Unfiltered. Yeah.
filtered, you
Hmm.
know. And so his sincerity
Yes. It's
becomes,
penalized.
becomes a burden,
Yes.
right? I mean, it's so contradictory uh,
Hmm.
uh, when we think about it. Would you like to have a relationship with someone that is true to their words, or someone that have all the great social skills,
Hmm.
but it's completely being fake in your
Yes.
words, right?
Yes.
This is what we are choosing.
Hmm.
Truth, I mean, we make truth hurts, but truth should not hurt.
Hmm.
There should be a way. So he definitely could learn how to filter it, how to say in a different way.
Hmm.
But at the end of the day, he was being true.
Yeah, and that's simple as that.
Yeah.
This is a movie about being truthful in his case, very direct, very
Mm.
linear in how he reacts, without perhaps the social polish that many of us create through experience, right? But it should be actually the goal for all of us to be 100% truthful.
Yeah, no
So
cynicism, no subterfuge,
yeah.
nothing, right?
Yeah, but there is a line. I remember when I first saw this movie back in the 90s, late 90s. I remember that the one line that he said that became very repeated many times was that the best compliment to her is, "You make me want to be a better person," right? And I think that is the journey for our inner transformation. When I look at myself and whatever it is that's making us want to be a better person, it's what puts us, gives us speed in that metaphorical marathon that we run against ourselves. So I think we need to perhaps look at it. What is it that is making us be a better person? And it may be your religion, it may be a book, it may be your best friend, but we should all look into this. What is our moral compass that is going to provide that direction, that guidance for us to indeed become better? And the issue here, Ju, is what happens when you get there, when we make those quantum leaps, if you will, of transformation, like you did. It's very hard to see, as you said, it's fictional, the story, so we don't know if it's even possible for somebody to 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 become such a much better person than what he was in the span of a movie. In this case, the short lifetime, not lifetime, the short period of time that the two of them were dealing with. The hospitalization and how his neighbor got better. But when we are going through growth, what happens to our old self? How do we accept and be kind to the fact that we are growing, right? When we look at ourselves and we see, oh my goodness, I'm no longer the person I was before. In this case of the movie, we're just referencing here the movie. So we invite all of you to watch the movie or rewatch the movie, if you will. But the idea is, and I don't know if you caught that, Jussara, when you saw the movie, but the psychiatrist, when he goes there, really panicking, right? He's panicking and he needs to do something. And he says, you need to break one pattern of behavior, right? And those are the ironies that we saw earlier. He broke one pattern, which was to now accept a germophobic, accepting a dog and touch a dog. And that pattern of behavior led him to care outside of his own self, be survive or not, but he led him to move and start caring. And also with the woman, where he now not only cares that she's available to serve him food, but he cares that she's well, that her son is well, and that shifts him being self-centered to centered in others. And I think this is beautiful message to all of us. And I think Joanna de Angelis would agree with that, right? The minute we start to move away from egocentric everything and start to focusing on being the conduit of well-being for others, we are in the right direction. That's our moral compass.
And there is just one final thing that I would like to mention that I think is very important that we have there as well. As he explains, he would go to the psychiatrist, but he refused treatment. And he was prescribed medication that he would not take.
Correct.
All of that leading him to want to become better made him accept that, I mean, he was dealing with a professional, and that the professional was recommended him something that could make him better. And every day, or maybe I'm exaggerating, but quite often I thank God for being so merciful to provide us with medical treatments that we didn't have before.
Yeah.
In all the fields, and of course in terms of mental illness as well.
Mm-hmm.
So when the professional is recommending that and
Mm-hmm.
says you can get better, right? And there was something that can make you better, why not embrace that? I think the worst thing that can happen is when a doctor will come to you and say there's nothing else we can do for you. So
Absolutely.
while there are resources, why not to take to embrace it. And in this case, he was so in such a dismay with life and careless for himself that
Mhm.
he didn't even allow the chance to try something that could make him better.
Yes. So for all of us here today, let us want to be better. Let us want to be a better person, a better version of ourselves. This is why we're here, right, Jussara? We're here, and I'm going to paraphrase Joanna de Angelis. She says that the reason why we're here, it's because we're getting prepared to the infinite happiness that awaits us, infinite happiness. So if we want to be happy, let us be mindful, let us be present, let us be welcoming and embrace ourselves and all of those who may not be so well for whatever reason it is. But with that, Jussara, I wanted to say goodbye, but do you have any final thoughts?
No, I think now the final thought is with you.
Very good. So with that, I just want to say, let us be here and mindful of all of us. It is a journey of growth and inner transformation. It is a journey that requires us to look at ourselves and looks at our circumstances. What is it that is leading us to a state of fear, of anxiety, and potentially from a pathological perspective for a journey where phobias become our lives? You have help. There are pharmacological help. There are assistance in terms of therapy, and the beauty of whatever is going to make you feel better by connecting through prayer, connecting through meditation, connect with self-love. But with that, I would say thank you, Josada, for being here, and we'll talk again next week. Bye, Ju.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.